All right, so I am at my friend's house. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
My name is Vicki.
And how long have you lived up in the mountains?
With a few years off to go downtown for what our kids needed, 34 years? 35 years.
And how long have you lived in this home?
9.5 years.
And you guys built this one?
Yeah.
And you built your other one too?
Well, okay, yeah. This one we had built. The other one we built. Oh, yeah. That was fun. I really recommend every couple should build their own home once. But believe me, once is enough.
And what would you say is your biggest challenge living up here versus like living in town?
I don't know. That's interesting because I don't think of it. For me, the challenge was living in town. I mean, there are things that are different up here. I mean, it's a little harder because you can't just run to the store if you're out of something, that kind of thing. But when you're used to it, you plan for it, and so it's not really an issue.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed that it gets easier the more you get used to it.
Well, even before we moved up here originally, when you're young and you're starting out and you're just starting your family, your budget's pretty tight. And so I would plan carefully how to shop because, you've only got so much per payday. And so it's pay the bills that need to be paid. And then you've only got this much left over for groceries. So you plan out until next payday how many meals I got to do and what I got. And so I always planned my shopping that way anyway, to where it was, even living in town, it was for a lot of that time only once a month that I would go grocery shopping anyway. So it wasn't that big a change. The big change came after our boys got bigger. I couldn't fit a month's worth into the car. I had to do it twice a month to keep them fed.
And how often do you run down the mountain to go shopping or do whatever now?
I still, once or twice a month is pretty much it, unless there's a specific reason. And if I've got a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment or, something like that. But in terms of just buying groceries, it's once to twice a month max, probably.
So what does your typical day schedule kind of look like?
Up here or down there?
Up here.
Up here?
Mm-hmm.
With our kids grown, it's simplified immensely. It was a whole different thing with kids, but now it's just sort of relax and enjoy it, I spend a lot of time crocheting or reading or sewing or, the sewing's a problem if the power goes out, but a lot of what I like to do doesn't depend on power, so even that's not a big deal. He doesn't like it when the computer's not working because that sort of cuts him off, but I like to cook, I like to bake. So I'm pretty content to just be here doing my thing and enjoying the outside. I seriously open those blinds and look across the meadow to the trees and the mountains, and I just don't want to be anywhere else.
What's one of your favorite things about living up here?
The smell. It's, I've said it for decades now. You could gouge my eyes out and run me all around the world for a few years, and if you brought me back the minute you dropped down the canyon at Roby Creek, my nose would tell me exactly where I am. I would know that. I think it's a combination of the creek and the specific foliage and stuff that's, native to this region. It's very distinctive. And if it's in the springtime and you get either the bitterbrush or the syringa in bloom, it's even more distinctive. But, where I have trouble with my lungs breathing in town, it's always a struggle. I'm always a little bit anxious having to go to town because I never know how bad the air is. But up here and go out on the deck and you can breathe and it smells wonderful and it's easy. And our daughter lives in Twin Falls and they come up every once in a while. The kids like to come and hang out and visit and play and a couple of times Trisha's mentioned to me, I forget how good it smells here. They love Twin, but it doesn't smell that good there.
What's your favorite season?
I like them all. I like the transition from one to the next. The winter is, sometimes it looks like a Christmas card, especially when you've had a hard freeze and the snow gets all glittery. Those Christmas cards that have the glitter on them. And so there's this pristine crispness to everything. And then spring comes and things get muddy and mushy and warm up. And I love it when our wonky cottonwood out here starts to leaf out. And then it heats up into summer. And summer's drier and hotter, but it has its own character. Fall is great. I love the fall because you still have some warm days, but you get that coolness of the nights. I like cool better than hot. And the fall colors. When you spend years driving back and forth from town, it's an interesting phenomenon because spring starts in the valley and you see it working its way up the canyon as further up as you get through the season. Fall is the opposite. It starts up here and kind of works its way down the canyon, and that's always fun to watch. I love that just from Grayback down that long straight stretch when the cottonwoods turn color, and then on down the canyon, the colors of the brush and the rocks. It's just the rusts and the golds and the deep reds. It's just gorgeous. I love that.
We get kind of challenging winters a little bit. So how do you guys handle snow with your driveway?
Up here in Duquette, they grade, and Neil, who has the contract to grade out Duquette, we just pay him and he grades our driveway. And Clint's got a little snow blower so he can keep our sidewalk clear. We did it the hard way when we were younger, but now it's like, oh, cool. We can afford to just, get it done.
And do you guys get stuck in the snow very often?
No. Part of the difference between our first house up here and this one is that one had a fairly steep driveway. This one is real easy to just pull right in, no big hills to worry about. And we've lived up here so long, we understand what kind of vehicle you need, that you've got this all-weather tire thing. No, you need good winter tires and four-wheel drive, and part of it is experience. You get enough experience with it, you know what you can handle and what you can't. And I'm good with snow. I'm good. I don't like slush, but what I really don't like is packed ice with a little bit of water on top. Nobody has control in that. When you see that, you just stay home. That does not, you can't hold the road with that. Anything else, it's pretty good.
And how do you heat your home?
We have a heat pump system so that it's as energy efficient as we could afford to do. And plus we have the fireplace that has the insert stove with the fan, so it puts out quite a lot of heat.
And how many cords of wood would you guess you go through approximately?
We always start the winter with 6 cord, and I would say we probably consistently use 5 cord. But that's running it all the time. Yeah, I showed you the cook stove downstairs.
Yeah, that was awesome. And if someone was thinking about moving up here, what advice would you have for them?
Be realistic. It is the best way to live as far as I'm concerned, but it is not for everybody. It was interesting when we first made the decision to come up here. We both grew up in Boise. We both knew Boise as a much smaller city than it has become. And so as it got bigger and bigger and more of a city and less of a town, we knew we wanted to be out and a little more rural kind of a setting. And we used to take drives a lot. And we drove up here and just fell in love with it. This is great. But when we moved up, we had, my brother calls me long distance to say, you can't live that far from town. That's crazy. How long is it going to take you to commute to work? And I said, well, it's 45 minutes one way. Well, he was living in Southern California. His was a much shorter commute, but it took him 2 hours, so that didn't hold water. I had a friend who said, oh, but your kids, it's not a safe place for your kids. What if they're out playing and they meet a snake? And I said, well, actually, I'd rather they go out and meet a snake than meet this motorcycle that keeps speeding up and down our street in front of our house right now. I'm cool with it. So there were a lot of people that had an idea that somehow this was this really rough, difficult way to live. I had to assure them we had running water and flushing toilets and electricity. It was fine. But most of those same people that thought we were nuts would later got into the habit of calling and saying, it's so gray and dismal down here, can we come up and visit? So the people that thought we were nuts to want to live like this have really enjoyed having us here because they get to come up and enjoy it too.
It is really nice up here. We really prefer it over living in town. It's just not as nice in town. Personal opinion.
I like the naturalness of it. I love nature. I'm not sure, I don't know how I categorize myself. I'm not a nut on the subject. I just like things more natural, less manufactured. So that appeals, and there's a peace to it that's hard to find in the city with the people and the noise and the concrete and there's a peace to living up here that it's good for the soul. It's good for your peace of mind. It's a slower, more contented way to live, I think. And it's a great magnet for grandkids. We have no trouble getting grandkids to come because they all love to, our kids bring their kids because they love to be here, so.
And you're planning on this being basically your forever home. You wouldn't want to leave.
No, I'm not going anywhere. They're going to take me out of here in a box. I don't want to be anywhere else. It's honestly, for me, especially with my breathing issues, it's easier for me to live here. And with some of the issues, it's harder and harder to be in town, to be around people because of the health issues. Part of the plan of this house is, I kept saying, look, the day may come when I'm pretty much homebound. If that's the case and I'm going to be stuck, I want to be stuck in a place where I like being. So if I'm going to be stuck, this is a good place. I can be homebound here and be very content.
All right, so we are down here looking at the coolest stove ever. I want one really bad. And Vicki is going to kind of explain how it works and what it does and what that cool thing right there is.
Okay. You want me to just
go over.
Okay. Well, it was our main source of heat when we first moved up here, which meant in the morning I was stoking wood in to try and heat things up. It has an extension in the back, so it holds more wood than a normal cook stove does. But the radiant heat from the stove plus the radiant heat from the hot pipe that goes clear up really would heat pretty much the whole house. So that was what we used. It does get hot. I haven't cooked waffles very often because I ended up with a very red face for a very long time after I finished making waffles, but it's really fun. You put it right over directly over the flame and put your batter in, and you can just turn it to get both sides. So I'm assuming that's how my grandma used to do it up on the ranch. And buttermilk pancakes on a cast iron griddle on a cast iron stove are just the best thing you're ever going to eat. I love it. And the heat of the oven was a problem for me. I wasn't sure how to do that, but my mom said stick your hands in your oven and feel what it feels like so you know the difference between a low oven, a medium oven, and a hot oven, and that's really all you need to know, and it works great. I baked bread in it, and it turned out really well. The warming oven on the top, when I was a little kid and we'd go spend time at a cabin with a wood cook stove, my mom would heat up the plates, keep them warm in the warming oven, so you get your breakfast on a warm plate. So the hot cakes and the bacon and everything it's really good. When my dad was a little kid, his job was to keep the wood box full and the water reservoir. There's a water reservoir there you can keep, so you have hot water all the time. So my grandma always had her stove going and had hot water, and it's great. I love it. We've got it installed here. We haven't really used it, but if the power goes out for any significant length of time, we're covered. Even in the dead of winter, I can cook whatever you need.
That's awesome.